My name is Nancy Roberts. I'm an economics professor at Arizona State University. The last two videos we have constructed demand and supply curves, and so what I want to do today is put them together and show you how a market actually works. So we had from our last video a supply curve for ice cream cones, and we had a demand curve for ice cream cones. So I'm just going to put cones down here, and we'll put the price up here. And this intersection where the quantity supplied of ice cream cones equals the quantity demanded of ice cream cones is what we call the equilibrium. Equilibrium. I use a shorthand for it because you can't write this word out every time. This is my shorthand. Equilibrium. So the equilibrium, I'll just call this point E, is at this price, which I'll call P star, and is at this output, which I will call Q star. So what this is a market now. A market is where there is a demand for something and a supply of that good. And so what we have is an equilibrium price and quantity in this market. What this picture says is that every time period, if this is per week, per month, per day, every time period, this many ice cream cones will be exchanged between the seller of ice cream and the buyer of ice cream at this price. This is the equilibrium. Now, what's good about equilibrium? I mean, producers don't necessarily love equilibrium, nor do consumers necessarily love equilibrium. Economists like it a lot. I mean, a consumer would rather the price be something lower. He's not necessarily thrilled with this price. The producer would actually rather the price be higher. But what's really good about this price is it's what economists call the market clearing price. At this price, the market clears. That means there's not a surplus of ice cream cones on the market, nor is there a shortage of ice cream cones on the market. Every ice cream cone that this producer is willing to sell at P star will be sold. And every consumer who is willing to pay a price of P star for an ice cream cone is going to get one. So this equilibrium is the market clearing situation in this market. Now, both producers and consumers benefit from this market. Both consumers and producers benefit from this market. And the way we can see that is to talk about two concepts. One we call consumer surplus. The other one we call producer surplus. Now, let's define consumer and producer surplus. Look at all of these ice cream cones here. 1, 2, 3, 4, up to Q star. Every one of these ice cream cones, consumers have said they're actually willing and able to pay a higher price than P star. This cone right here has a value to somebody way up here, that price. This cone here has a value to somebody at this price. Every one of these cones is going to be sold at a price of P star, so all of this area right here is benefits to consumers because they're going to buy these ice cream cones at a lower price than they actually value it. So this triangular area here we call consumer surplus. Benefits to consumer over and above what they actually had to pay. Surely this has happened to you. You go to the store. This happens to me with Reese's peanut butter cups. I love them. So you go to the checkout counter, and of course they always have them sitting there to tempt you. So you pick one up and you say, oh, 50 cents. And so you put it on the conveyor belt. She charges you 50 cents and you laugh. And the reason you laugh is because you would actually pay $1. But you only had to pay 50 cents. That's what we call consumer surplus. You take $50 to Home Depot because you're going to buy a chainsaw. And you want a Black & Decker chainsaw and they cost $50. You get to the store and guess what? They're on sale today for $35. So you were willing and able to pay $50, you're only going to pay $35. Consumer surplus. That's this area here. And mathematically, the area of a triangle is 1/2 the base of the triangle times the height of the triangle. We'll do a little bit of math later. Consumer surplus. Producer surplus. The producer says, this is his supply curve, and you remember when we had his supply schedule up here, the producer said, well, if I can sell these for $1, I'll put one of them on the market. If I can sell them for $1.50, I'll put two on the market. If I can sell them for $3, I'll put, and so what we know is the producer, this supply curve tells us the price it takes to entice him to put that cone on the market. So this cone right here, let's look at this cone right here. The producer says, if I can get this price for it, I'll put this cone on the market. But the producer's going to get this price. So there's all of this producer surplus with that cone. What about this cone right here? The producer says, I'll put this cone on the market if I can get that price. Well, he's going to get a higher price. So all of this is what we call producer surplus. It's the producer receiving a price over and above what it takes to entice him to supply that good to the market. And again, producer surplus equals 1/2 the base, which is this, times the height. So every market has consumer surplus and producer surplus. There's no reason to expect that consumer and producer surplus are the same dollar amount. Depends on elasticity of demand and supply, which we'll talk about later. But there are benefits over and above what the consumer pays, and there are benefits over and above what the producer demands to put the good on the market. So we have consumer and producer surplus in every market. It's a good thing.